Fan of the show? Never miss an episode by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at our website, cinemapsychoshow.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show.
I always wondered when Batman Forever came out, you could win the Batmobile. I always wondered who won the Batmobile. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to interview them.
Excellent.
I don't want that Batmobile, but I guess I have to take a Batmobile.
You don't want the one that's ribbed for her pleasure?
No, I don't. Oh. It literally looks like a penis.
Yeah, I mean, the first one looked like a penis, but this one looked like a penis with a condom on.
Guys, how many episodes are we going to discuss how it in fact looks like a penis?
203.
I mean, I'm not going to keep you from saying penis, John.
Penis.
Is that ASMR for
penis?
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Connington, joined by my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Lane Woolscroft.
Let's get it started and ha.
Let's get it started and ha.
Ha.
Wow.
Ha.
So we're gonna do the Black Eyed Peas. Okay.
Early 2000s Black Eyed Peas, you know.
Very exciting.
That has absolutely nothing to do with whatever the hell we're talking about today, is it?
Not even a little bit?
Although, give HBO Max some time. They'll do a documentary on them.
Well, yeah. I mean,
they just do one on the Bee Gees?
Well, you know what's funny? Ever since we talked about the best movies of 2020 last week, I watched the rest of McMillions, and I'm cracking the fuck up.
It was so good, wasn't it? I loved it.
Oh,
I was very proud. And some people said it was too long, but I would have hung out with Officer Doug all fucking day.
Well, there is that fine line between a 2-hour documentary being maybe too short and some of these 15-hour Netflix exposés maybe being a hint too long, maybe finding that balance between the two.
Yeah, some people said McMillions is too long. I heartily disagreed.
No, I loved the wackiness because here's the thing. The whole time I'm watching it, I'm going all right, it can't get any more weird. It can't get any more weird. And then I'm on, I forget what episode I'm currently on now, but I am on an episode where they get to that hillbilly younger guy who's took his money. He was one of the last people to win. And he took his money and created a farm and that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm on that particular episode. So I'm way past the mobster shit. And all that fun stuff. I was I have to keep watching this because this is so weird.
I know.
I played the Monopoly game. I knew how it was, but I always wondered who won the prizes. Who
knew Chicky Nuggies could lead to fraud?
I always wondered when Batman Forever came out, you could win the Batmobile. I always wondered who won the Batmobile. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to interview them.
Excellent.
I don't want that Batmobile, but I guess I have to take a Batmobile.
You don't want the one that's ribbed for her pleasure?
No, I don't. Oh. It literally looks like a penis.
Yeah, I mean, the first one looked like a penis, but this one looked like a penis with a condom on.
Guys, how many episodes are we going to discuss how it in fact looks like a penis?
203.
I mean, I'm not going to keep you from saying penis, John.
Penis.
Is that ASMR for
penis?
Okay, that's fine. But
that's enough friendly banter. What are we talking about here, folks?
Well, you just cut Lane off, and here's the thing, folks. I can actually see her face because we're trying a new piece of technology where I can actually see my co-hosts, and it's funny because I in my head every time we've done these episodes remotely, I'm like, oh, Lane is doing a face, but now I actually can see it. And I'm just she's going to kill him. And now she just tried to bet him.
You being able to see my face is actually going to be interesting now, Brian.
I love it. It's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway.
What episode are we on?
We're on episode 203.
Yeah.
We're in
Yeah,
episode
we
203.
are. Yeah, we are.
And kind of in keeping with our, I guess, look back at 2020, the year that keeps going and going and going, it seems. We want to take a step back and look at probably, I would say, the biggest film news to come out of 2020. And that is the real shakeup, I'd say, of a paradigm that has been in place since the dawn of cinema. And that is the idea of theaters kind of having ownership over when movies get played. Really theaters being the first run. And we're talking kind of about the whole HBO Max and Warner Brothers, and specifically shaking things up and putting their entire catalog of films that are be coming out for 2021 on HBO Max, and kind of doing this weirdo kind of like releasing at the same time as theaters, and doing a very bizarre kind of take on this, and just kind of what this kind of means for filmmaking and how we take in entertainment. Because this is a big deal. Like, I don't think people understand how massive of a seismic shift this is from what we even saw like a couple of years ago.
Right. Well, I think we should point out that it's not their entire catalog in the sense
not
that,
their entire
it's
catalog.
the blockbusters.
The new
right?
ones.
What they're pointing
ones.
out is that the blockbuster movies are the ones that are coming there. I mean, the ones that were their independent movies were already going to be set to stream immediately. Nobody would have thought anything of it, but like Wonder Woman and things like that. But before we dive into the details on this, I'm just curious. I want to know what your immediate thoughts are like about this. I'll start right off the bat here. I have zero problem with this whatsoever. I think it's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. I was actually I was hoping we kind of take things a little further back and just talk about streaming in general, because
definitely, yeah.
I think it's been so huge. I remember being in college when and this is going to date me, which really sucks. And all y'all know how old I am, but I was in college when Netflix was a thing, and I remember my roommate wanted to get it, and we would just like pick the movies together, but it was just discs. There was no streaming yet.
Well, Brian, what are your initial thoughts about this?
So for me, kind of, my initial thoughts of the whole HBO thing, and I want to get deep into this, and I definitely want to talk about how we got here, because I think it's important to take a look back and just kind of, as you said, Lane, look and say, how do we go from even going to, say, the video store, buying and picking up a DVD or a Blu-ray there, to, oh yeah, blockbusters are coming out at the same time on streaming on your TV.
Yeah. I think it's
But my initial thoughts on this, John, to answer your question, I think it's a good thing for a public health reason. I think for public health, you have to do this because the opposite, it could kill a bunch of people. So for my point of view, from a public health reason, this makes sense. For a business take, I see the benefits and the cons of it at the same time. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of movie theaters that go out of business because of this. But at the same time, there are a lot of restaurants going out of business too. And there are a lot of other small businesses that are going out of business as well. Who's to say that theaters can't get hit by the same problem as well? So I think it's a good thing because it keeps people safe. I think it's a good business decision for Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they're the ones that own these films. Like,
Yeah.
As much as Christopher Nolan wants to pretend he owns his movies, but it's actually Warner Brothers that owns your movie. And there's only so long that they can put their money into these movies and just sit on them and push them back and push them back. You saw some of these movies push back 3 months. Like, I think Black Widow went from like March to a summer release to a fall release now to be determined, from Disney. There's only so long that they can just have put $150 million into something and then just sit on it. That's just a loss, and it continues to be a loss. So they want to recoup any of their money that they possibly can. So they're just dishing these things out. And I do think a lot of the reason a lot of these filmmakers are upset about this is they're hiding behind the guise that, oh, you know, it's because my movie was meant to be seen in the movie theater. And there's something so romantic and majestic about, you know, going to a movie theater. And I love going to movies at the movie theater, but it's the back end that they're worried about. You know, it's, they gave me $10 million to make this movie, but I'm making an extra 8 or 9 million off of the box office receipts. And they're mad they're not making that extra 8 or 9 million. It's at the end of the day, they're worried about their profits.
Yeah, I think you can even go back even further and say that movies don't even belong to the studio. They belong to the Wall Street venture capitalists that have funded the studio and funded those films. That's why you have people like, outgoing Treasury douchebag Steve Mnuchin, who funded a bunch of movies before he got into, the deep water of politics. Not going to miss that guy. But my point is, like, I think we kind of have a romanticized version of film. From our perspective, we look at it from the standpoint of like, well, yes, of course the director owns it. Of course he or she should have, a determination of how their work is put out. But the problem is that film is a business as well as an art form. And, John, as you said, there's only so long that people can sit on these movies. Every single, month that goes by that Black Widow isn't put out, that is less revenue that's coming in. That's more eyes being directed to something else. So I get why they did it. My concern is, how does this affect the film industry once we're out of the pandemic? That's my concern.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this, and we usually joke about it on the show where usually every year there's some movie that the studio knows isn't going to do well, and they kind of take the tax bath on it. Looking at you, Paul Blart Mall Cop the Third.
Or Justice League.
But yeah, I mean, there's only so long that they can roll around in losing money. And like I said in one of our episodes early in the year, theaters are at a 40-year low income wise. Mm-hmm. And, everybody's losing money. Theaters are losing money. Everything that involves going out and being someplace is losing money. And truly, theaters didn't make a lot of money to begin with. Theaters have been struggling for a long time, in large part due to things like Netflix, to streaming services, to video on demand. So this is a consideration for health and for, not wanting to die of the coronavirus, for going outside. But this was a problem before. This is just exacerbating it big time.
Yeah, Lane, just to piggyback on that, I couldn't agree more. In the research that I've done, movie theaters as the primary way to see movies, and for there to be countless movie theaters, it's a dying industry way before this pandemic started. They were at record lows, as you mentioned, and the pandemic is only assisting and kind of making that faster. But movie theaters were on their way down. And I think that what we're going to see is, when this is all over, there will still be movie theaters, but there's going to be considerably fewer. And they're probably not going to push as many indie films. It's probably going to be, movie theaters are going to be reserved for blockbusters. But what we are going to probably see in 5 to 10 years is probably just going to be later in 2021 and 2022. It's just happening sooner. So, the pandemic didn't kill the movie theaters. Streaming and people's desire to see things at home is in the movie industry.
Do we want to take a little dip in our time machine back to the before time?
The before time.
Yeah. And just kind of talk about how because I think most people do not quite understand that the dichotomy between the movie studio and the theater in exhibition has honestly been a bizarro kind of dance, literally since the dawn of cinema. Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning that, because we're talking about, I'd say, probably the greatest divorce between exhibition and the production side of it, right?
Yeah, movie theaters have monopoly. If you wanted to see a movie, you had to go to the theater.
Well, even before that, like, we talk about kind of, the dawn of cinema. There was honestly a massive monopoly, as you said, John, but even to a greater stance where you had Paramount theaters, for instance, that were only showing Paramount movies.
Right.
You had Warner theaters that were only showing Warner films. And this was for years. Like, we're talking since the birth of cinema all the way up to, what was it? Like maybe I think it was the 50s, the late 40s or early 50s, when the Supreme Court actually broke up the monopoly that Hollywood had, where they said, guess what? You cannot own the entire production line. You cannot own the production as well as the distribution and exhibition. You can't do it. It's a monopoly. And that was a good thing. That breakup was a good thing, because I honestly think that gave us independent film in the way that we can see it, because it wasn't, well, you had to make a Warner film or it was going to show in the Warner theater. It was, well, yeah, all the theaters can show whatever they want. They can show Paramount films or Warner films or Disney films or whatever. They were independent from it. So I think it's worth kind of talking about that.
Yeah, and honestly, even after the breakup, like, movie theaters, they make very little money off of ticket sales. I think a movie has to be out 2 months before they really even see a profit off of their ticket sales. That's why, there's the inflated popcorn and soda and candy prices, is because that's the only place they're making any money whatsoever. The arcade, things like that is where they're actually making profit, because the studios are robbing them blind, which, so it's a system that, even though they did break up with the monopoly, it's not that it suddenly became profitable for movie theaters. I think that's part of their downfall, is that not only are ticket prices too expensive for the consumer, but movie theaters aren't making any money off of these movies. Disney was almost insisting on even more money, even though they're one of the worst ones in terms of the deals of movie theaters, in terms of, the profit that movies can make off of Disney films.
And for me personally, the intersection of technology and still seeing things traditionally in the theater, what I was really digging for a while there was how you could reserve your seat and buy a ticket for a specific seat and then just waltz into the theater like 2 minutes before the preview started, because I like the trailers. I like the previews. And I was really enjoying that as a part of the movie going experience, where you didn't have to camp out for a big premiere. And you had a good sense of whether your theater was sold out or not. So you knew in advance if it was going to be busy or annoying, because I'm, kind of a fussy human being and I like to know that shit in advance.
Well, I mean, in movie theaters, like, don't get me wrong, like, I prefer to see every movie in the movie theater if I can, big or small. I much prefer it. You're in a dark area. You're only focused on the screen. It's the biggest screen you can have. It's the best sound you can have. But, there are some movies that don't necessarily require it. I looked in the research for this episode, and one of the directors who is so pissed off about this agreement with HBO Max is Judd Apatow. And, like, Judd, I love you, but I feel that I could be hung over with my eyes closed on the couch and I can still get everything I need from your movie.
Oh yeah, his
shit
is,
what about your movie requires
his shit is best
an IMAX
on like a Saturday morning on cable. Jesus. No,
I mean, go ahead, Lane.
I was just going to say one thing that was funny that struck me last week. So I watched Lost Girls, which was a movie on Netflix. I liked it. Not here to review it. But one of the things that happened is before I turned it on, I had accidentally left my phone upstairs, and I just rolled with it. I was like, you know what? I don't need my phone to watch a movie. It was a game changer. I didn't realize how much I have. I mean, I have my phone in my face all the time. Like, who doesn't? It's a problem. But I didn't have my phone with me, and not having it really mimicked the theater experience for me. Because, I mean, we have large TVs here. I mean, we both studied media for 10 years. So, I mean, I don't think it would surprise anybody to know that our TVs are on the larger side. So we have big TVs, and in our basement, I think it's conducive, to the movie watching environment. But man, having my phone away really mimicked the theater experience, because I saw one of the actresses and I was like, oh, she looks so familiar. I can't place her, but I couldn't just look it up. Because, I mean, I was on the couch and I wasn't going to move.
Well, I think it's one of the things where I think we've been socially conditioned to know that, hey, when we're going to a movie, we're going to a theater, that you don't look at your phone. You know, the phone's there. We have the phone there. It's at our disposal. But socially, we've kind of, you know, been hit over the head with how many, you know, pre-show adverts that come out and say, hey, turn off your cell phone, asshole.
Oh, some people look at their fucking phone.
Those people should be beaten with reeds.
I've made John cranky many times when I have told people to turn their phones off.
That's because I don't want to have to fight your battles and I have to fight some guy.
You don't have to fight shit for me. I can fight my own battles. Thank you.
I was going to say,
you damn know that's not how that works. But
I will scratch a girl's eyes out. I don't give a shit.
But my point is just like, we've been conditioned to know that, hey, when we're in the theater, and I would say most of us, I think 90% of the population, there's always that 10% that are assholes. But I think 90% of the population knows when you go to the movie theater, turn your damn phone off, or at least don't look at it. You know what I mean?
Keep it in the pocket.
Keep it in the pocket. Look at it afterwards. But I think by not having your phone at your disposal, you know, when you're watching it, yeah, it kind of mimics that environment. But it's I guess for me, the only thing that kind of makes me worry about this is, how will this affect independent filmmakers? How will this shift of making the big fish, so to speak? Okay, because we've always had it where you know, yeah, the streaming services were for the little to medium sized fish. You know, how is this shift of minimizing the windowing, which is, that's the terminology. You're windowing when a film is going to be in theaters and windowing when it's going to be on home video. How will this affect the indie filmmaker, the person who's just trying to get their movie with as many eyeballs as possible? You know, that's my concern.
I think, honestly, I think the true indie filmmakers, because indie filmmaking can be anything from, I made a movie for $3,000 or I made a movie for $3 million. So somehow a $3 million budget's considered an indie movie. I blame Sundance. But yeah. I think that true independent films, I think we're going to go the way of streaming anyways. You know, and speaking of, you know, Len Kabaczynski, who is the I made a movie for $3,000 kind of guy, is, you know, he went to Amazon and he gets his films out there that way, you know, and that's really the lowest of the low in terms of money. I mean, in terms of independent filmmaking. But yeah, even something that's made for $1 million, I think that they were going to be heading towards streaming anyways. Because Brian, I think you're right. I think that we're going to see movie theaters only put in the new Marvel movie or the new Will Smith summer action movie. Those are going to be the only ones they're going to take chances on moving forward to try to, you know, recoup any kind of cost. They don't have the luxury of, you know, having that monopoly anymore. And they've also been scared shitless from 2020.
Well, I guess my thought and what my fear is that, you know, when Amazon first did Prime, okay, when they first opened up the whole Prime Video thing, they really courted the indie film market. They really courted indie directors, people who, you know, did have that movie that maybe was sitting on their shelf for 5 years and they didn't put it out there. They didn't do anything. And it was like, okay, well, guess what? You could put it on our platform instead of put it on YouTube. And, you know, our platform is going to be professional. You're going to get paid for it. You know, and as soon as you had these big budget films and big budget series start coming in, as soon as you had the Homelands and you had The Boys and everything else, not to say that I have anything against them. You know, I love The Boys. I love that. It's a great series. But as soon as you started to have the major studios start to have a hand in Amazon Prime, that pushed out the indie filmmakers, pushed them out right out the door.
Well, it's kind of interesting because it's the you know, studio and theater system from the 40s and 50s in reverse, right? It started with the studios owning the theaters, and now the streaming service ended up building their own studios because Amazon Studios is its own thing now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of in reverse, and that's what screwed over the little guy a little bit. And just kind of going back to what John was saying about Len Kabaczynski, friend of the show, you know, if you're just about getting eyeballs on your work, Amazon's not a bad way to do it. It's very accessible. A lot of people do have the subscription, it's not necessarily a ton of money, but Len didn't have a great experience with traditional forms of distribution anyway. So for him, not a huge loss either way. But I do think that to John's point, that theaters are going to probably be looking for the greatest return on their investment, and they are going to be looking for those bigger blockbusters and want to make that money back.
Well, guys, are we going to see a return to the old form? Are we going to see Netflix movie theaters pop up? Are we going to see Amazon movie theaters pop up? There have been talks that if the movie theater chains die out, like AMC goes bankrupt, maybe Amazon does buy the movie theaters, but you can only go see Amazon.
I would say only if you could buy them for cheap. I don't think a lot of companies are going to be looking to invest in something like that because historically theaters haven't been doing well.
Well, let's take a step. Okay, let's take a step back here with this whole HBO Max thing, and like guys like Christopher Nolan getting sand in his mangina is that. Let's take a look at what the deal is with HBO Max, and we need to make something very clear that when a movie like Wonder Woman comes on HBO Max, it's in movie theaters at the same time.
Yeah.
It's only there for 1 month. Yeah. And then it rides out the rest of its movie chain run, like theater chain run. And then it's on video on demand for a period of time. And then it's back to a streaming service like HBO Max. And HBO Max is only available in the United States. Yeah. As a point of reference for Tenet, Mr. Christopher Nolan's boring, mumbly nonsense movie that he made, is that, it made about $2.99 in the States, which got him a cup of coffee, but it made $300 million overseas where there aren't as many restrictions because things aren't as bad in terms of COVID. So the thing is, HBO Max is only a problem here in the United States where no one's going to movie theaters anyways, and you're still getting gargantuan returns by most standards, maybe not Christopher Nolan standards, overseas. So I don't really know what exactly the problem is here.
I think the issue is the timing of when that film is available online. I think that's the issue. It's not the fact that they're doing online in theaters while both are going at the same time. I think it's the fact that the minute that Wonder Woman comes out in theaters, it's also coming out on HBO Max. So traditionally, that first weekend is 100% ticket sales, 100% of that. That's the mad rush. That's where you make your name in the headlines. It's where you get all the press for it. That's when people are going on and doing press junkets and all that shit. It's to get people to go to the theater to be like, I have to go see Wonder Woman. Although we talked about last episode that Wonder Woman was not as much as we'd hope. But the point is it's when it's up on something other than the theaters. That's the issue. It's not that it's going at the same time concurrent. If they had it flipped where, hey, the first month it's in theaters and then it's on HBO Max, I don't think it would be nearly as big of a deal. I really don't. But I think it's because it's happening at the same time. It's taking the thunder away from the theaters. Because I'm going to be honest with you, we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. And if I don't have to go out to see a movie, I'm not gonna. Just like if I don't have to go out anywhere right now, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, but I think the larger question is once we all get vaccines and, we put COVID behind us, how many people are going to still want to stay home to see the movie?
Yeah, I don't foresee movie theaters having a lot of people in them for a long time. Like, let's say we got this thing under control, and we haven't had a new case in the United States for 7 weeks, and everybody, all 330 million people in some rainbow universe that I'm living in, has gotten the vaccine. I still think people are going to have some kind of PTSD about going to the movie theaters. It's going to be a long time before people are packed into the theater.
I really think that it depends on where we're at. I think that there are a lot of people who are hungry for normalcy. Really?
I could see that.
Really?
Well, Brian, I saw Tenet in the theater, and I remember Lane and I had a discussion like we were going to have if I was going to buy a motorcycle and refuse to wear a helmet. You know what I mean?
Really thrilled about the idea.
It was something we had to talk about. And honestly, I felt, even though I was only one of three people in the theater and very, very far away from them. I felt guilty for like a week.
Yeah, but John, that's now. Like that's now. That's at the height of all this shit. What I'm talking about is, if there is, a lot of vaccine out there, if we are kind of returning to some level of normalcy, where maybe we do have to wear a mask everywhere, which I think that's just good practice, honestly. I don't want to be around any of you dirty bastards. But
I haven't had a cold in forever. And
I know, right?
Awesome. It's so awesome.
But my point is, like, I think even when once we start to see that we're getting back to level normalcy, because keep in mind, this same type of doom and gloom on the theater chains that happened in 1918. I read articles where people were quoting this, that this is the end of Hollywood, that there are not going to be any movies seen anymore because no one's going to go to the theater after this.
Huh. Wow.
And you know what? They bounce back. Now here's the reason why. And this is here, if Hollywood is listening, which I doubt they are, if they are, here's how you get people back in the theaters. Here's how you do it. Okay. What you do is you take a note out of what some of the independent theater chains have done. What a note out of some of the row houses, out of some of the Oaks theaters, where you make movie going experiences more of an experience than just going to watch a fucking movie.
Agreed.
That's how you do it. You give them something that the streaming service isn't going to offer.
I also would love to see drive-in movies.
Yeah.
Theaters like continue their upward surge. I mean, I know that it's tough because they're really seasonal, but boy, I love drive-ins. I think they're so awesome.
I mean, I really think that in a post-pandemic world, people will want more community and more communal experiences because they've gone without it. You know what I mean? I think you're going to have a section of people that absolutely will be like, fuck it, I'm not going anywhere. But then I also think that you're going to have a lot more people who are going to take a step back and say, you know what? I was an introvert. I was someone who didn't want to go out anywhere. I didn't want to be around people. I had my utopia, so to speak, of not being around anybody because the government and everyone told me, if you go around people, you're going to kill them. And I think that people will realize that they need those communal experiences, that they need that theater going experience, but it has to be more than just watching the movie. It cannot just be pay $20, then spend $50 on food and get just a screen of the movie. It cannot be that. If they expect to go back to that, that's not going to happen. I think what will bring people back to the theaters is having things like watch parties, having private events that you can bring groups of people together, friends of friends, that sort of thing. I think bringing in, well, you can do that now, but what I'm saying is it's different when you've got real people. Like I've gone to your house prior to the pandemic and we've had watch parties and movies and it's great. There's nothing that beats having in-person interaction and watching a film and laughing about it and joking about it. So I think things like private parties are going to definitely help the theater industry. I also think that you have to get, say, the stars of these movies. You have to get the people involved in making these movies to come to the fucking theater and talk about them in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of Kevin Smith's whole approach with Jay and Silent Bob get rebooted. He made it a roadshow picture.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how you do it.
And
that is, I'm telling you, that's how you do it.
But not everybody's Kevin Smith. I mean, like, have you, speaking of Christopher Nolan, and I don't mean to constantly pick on him, but have you guys seen interviews with him? He is
you guys are talking about two different things. Like you're talking about like how movies are going to survive, John, and Brian's talking about how theaters are going to survive. Those are two different things. Yeah. And to Brian's point, I think these like niche offerings, and I hate to keep coming back to Row House, but I'm the most familiar with their events, but some of the things that they do where they show something like Kiki's Delivery Service and they pair with the local ramen restaurant and you have ramen in a movie, like that's stuff that's really unique. That's like a full experience, dinner and a movie. Like that's the stuff that I think is going to help them survive, an independent theater in a city like ours. I mean, I think that's what's going to be the best way to go about it.
I don't know if AMC theaters can do that though. Just honestly, I don't know. I don't know if they can do that.
Yeah.
there is a romance to just going to the movies that I think people will miss. I mean, not every theater, like I hate to say it, but Tinseltown up in Erie might be the most god ugliest movie theater I've ever seen in my life.
It's so 90s. That's why it's
yeah, and they've never updated it. But a lot of the older looking theaters, there is a beautiful romance to it. It's not like going to like say live show at like the Warner Theater or something like that, where it's, a beautiful old opera house or something like that. But, there's a majesty to going to the movie theaters. And I think
the problem though, John, is that we're film people. You could throw any schlock up on the screen and I'm going to go to it,
How dare you? I am schlock selective.
Oh, well, there you go. You're a much better person than me. But all I'm saying is like, we love film. We love movies to our core. It's part of what makes us. So we're not the average person. Okay. The average person is going to be like, oh, I've got a choice of I go to the AMC theater and I watch this movie, or I can watch the same movie for the same amount of money, or as part of my streaming package at home. Don't have to go anywhere. So if all things being equal, the average person is going to pick streaming every day. But what makes things unequal is when you say, guess what? You can go to this movie, and guess what? The movie's made by Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan's going to be there to talk about the movie, the beginning part.
Yeah. It could be.
And you know what? You make that part of what they do for their press package thing.
Kind of like what special features for like a DVD or Blu-ray are played along with the movie or something along those lines. I could see that, but
it's a live experience. You have to be there to get it. It's why people go to see comedians. I saw Patton Oswalt with my wife and my sister-in-law at I forget where the hell it was at. It was the one venue that they always play at. They always have it's a Carnegie something. I don't know. Anyway,
I know where you mean.
Yeah, Music Hall in Homestead. That's it. Carnegie Music Hall in Homestead.
Yes.
So I've seen Patton Oswalt on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen his shtick. He's a hilarious comedian. But there's something about him being literally a couple feet away from you and interacting with you. That's an experience you just can't get. And that's what I'm saying is for theaters to survive in a post-pandemic world, they have to really up their fucking game. Indie theaters have already figured this one out. That's why Row House does the stuff that they do.
Mm-hmm.
They've already figured it out. But the big ones, they better figure some shit out because that's the only way they can survive. They can't just do movie and popcorn and nachos. It just doesn't work.
Well, and I mean, I know that I busted on a lot of these filmmakers because they're mad about, them not making as much money as they could. But there is a lot of truth
no matter what. I mean,
right? There is a lot of truth to, when you watch a movie with like 4 people at your house that you're going to be talking through it. You're going to be on your phone. You're going to pause it so somebody can like go upstairs and grab some chips. And then when they bring them down, they're going to be opening the bag. It's going to be making a lot of noise. And, it's not the preferred.
Are you saying that Lane opens the bag of chips and makes noise during?
No, that would if anybody's opening chips, it would be me.
That's
true.
but
it's not the best way to see a movie. And as filmmakers ourselves, no, I don't want to be showing my movie on a 45-inch TV screen in a perfectly lit room with people talking to each other and on their phones. I would love to be able to show it in a theater like any other film, so I can understand that this is not a preferable way to do it. The question is going to be if they make money off of the streaming platform this way, when we are able to return to movie theaters without any worry, are they going to just completely abandon the watch it at home or watch it in the movie theater option and just go back to the movie theater only option, or are they going to continue this for profit? I think that's really the question. What's going to kill the movie theater? Are they going to completely abandon this option once we can actually return.
Well, I think the real key to bringing people in with any of these live events is exclusivity, whether it's them getting the event first, them getting the movie first, them having content that other platforms don't get. I think that that's the real key because that's the real draw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think that you're going to see that. I mean, I honestly think the studios are going to try to hedge their bets with both. I really do. If I was in their position and I'm facing down, a loss of profit, because we mentioned at the top of the show, every month or every week that movie is not released, every week that Black Widow isn't released is a loss. It's a significant loss. It's why there's such a timetable that's baked into the production of these things. They want to make them cheap, get them out there fast, and make a return on them. That's literally the game. That's the whole game right there. Sorry, there's no real magic to Hollywood, folks. It's all make it cheap, get it fast, and get the return on that investment, because movies are expensive to make. But I think that if I'm a businessman, I would probably hedge my bets with both. Now, what I would suggest, if I am a businessman, is to make the theaters do something extra. Because, yeah, you could go watch it on HBO Max. But as I said, if Christopher Nolan or who's the person directing Dune, the new Dune one, who also got all up in his ass.
No, Dennis something. Yeah.
Villeneuve.
Thank you. Yeah. I didn't want to butcher it.
It's okay. But anyway, I know he was also up his ass because Dune is going to be released on HBO Max as well, which honestly I'm looking forward to that movie anyway. But my point is that it's what they should probably try to do, because the theaters are going to be hurting and because there's a relationship there. They should really make a push to make the press run that these studios force their actors, their directors to also do exclusive events at theaters. That's what they should do, to do some kind of exclusive live events. Things that are going to draw people to the theater on top of go to HBO Max and everything else. That's my thinking about it. Again, indie theaters have figured this out because they've had to compete with AMC and Lowe's and everyone else. They've had to make do with something that's different. Got to make an experience.
I think if they just suffocate the streaming service, then they don't have to do anything unique at all. And I think that's more likely what they'll do. If they
they're going to suffocate the streaming service?
How?
Well, no, something like Warner Brothers. Like, as soon as we can all return to the movie theater, you can't watch it on HBO Max now. You have to go to the theater.
I don't think you can do that. I really don't.
You don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle?
No, you can't. You know how I know that? Fucking piracy.
Yeah, and people will wait. People will wait so they can just watch it at home.
I know there's something about, talk about, it seems now the last great event movie seemed like it was Avengers Endgame. We all
was.
Yeah. Well, we all went opening weekend and it was a communal experience. I did not want to wait, 4 or 5 months to see Endgame, and I knew it would be spoiled for me anyways, so we were there, opening weekend or something,
I think we went, we did opening weekend. Yeah. All three of us went.
We didn't wait long. I know that.
No.
So, yeah. There is something to, I remember standing in line for The Dark Knight Rises, for better or worse, because the wait to get in for the midnight screening was, so long. It wrapped around the movie theater. That was
the last time there was a midnight screening.
Yeah. I did not want to wait 4 months to see Dark Knight Rises. It was, I think that you're right. I think if it is available on HBO Max, see The Dark Knight Rises on HBO Max right away in your home, or go to the movie theater. I think you're absolutely right. There will have to be something special to get people in the movie theaters, but if they know that that's really where their bread is buttered, they're just going to be like, well, no, you can't see it. You can see it on HBO Max in 9 months.
I'm telling you, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do it. Would be stupid, because think of it this way. You get someone to go to the theater one time for a movie. One time. They go one time. They spend $20. Let's say $20 to go to the theater one time to see Dune. Let's talk about that. Okay. So if I'm spending $20 one time to go see Dune, and versus, okay, someone who's spending $20 a month for HBO Max. The minute that those blockbusters are no longer on HBO Max, the minute that this whole scheme goes out the window, they don't have the content to hold people to HBO Max. I really believe that because people are going to have this expectation. They have the expectation. I can get my blockbuster movies on HBO Max. So why am I going to pay for the fucking service?
Well, I guess it just depends on how good the, original content on HBO Max is.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's not that great.
I
don't get me wrong.
Millions, Brian.
I do love McMillions. And don't get me wrong, but it isn't Mandalorian level. Let's be honest here.
Nothing is Mando.
It's not Tiger King level. It's not Queen's Gambit level. I'm sorry. It's just not. I have HBO Max, but I'll be honest with you. I struggle sometimes to find anything that's good.
Well, I mean, guys, let's talk numbers real quick in terms of Brian, because I really think that they're going to absolutely do away with the streaming immediately options because Wonder Woman has.
I disagree.
Wonder Woman. Here, I'll talk some numbers. Wonder Woman made $5.5 million domestically. Now, I don't know how they're factoring the HBO Max numbers. That's in the movie theater. Now, I don't know if they're going by subscriptions because
what theaters are open for those?
They had some.
There are some. Certain places like New York and stuff. All the movie theaters are closed down. But there are other places where you can actually go to a movie theater. But I don't know how you factor something like HBO Max in terms of. There are so many other things on there. I think that they're looking at how many new subscribers they're going to get when these new movies come out, right?
Yeah.
And how many they retain after the free trial. And I do not think for a second that the numbers for new subscribers that will probably, if there's a certain movie they want to see, if they wanted to see Blunder Woman, but they don't care about, the other things that are on the streaming service coming out, they'll probably just do the 30-day trial and cancel. Yeah. Is that
you can't do that for everything though, right? I mean, you can't.
Right. But
how many emails can you create?
But I'm saying that if you're in a boardroom and you're looking at, this nearly impossible thing to factor, how much did Wonder Woman really make as compared to the other things on HBO Max? And we're only pulling in $5.5 million at the box office. And this thing costs us $180 million, including marketing. To get out there, maybe over 200 million, but we could have pulled in $400 million in the movie theater if we had it in movie theaters alone. They are going to send the streaming service packing.
I'm sorry. I just think the minute that you let the genie out of the bottle, and I'm someone who has been saying for years that because of piracy, the windowing is an archaic and honestly stupid premise. It's a stupid premise. But my point is that the minute that there's legitimacy in getting online films put out there, the minute you're getting blockbusters on there at the same time, people's, I guess you could say expectation, their attitudes towards it will adapt. And the longer this pandemic goes, and the longer that whole way that they're setting this up is, it's going to be hard to break that. Because I'm sorry, HBO Max does not have the depth of content that Disney Plus has. It does not even have the depth of content that Netflix has. Or Amazon. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying I do, but there's a lot. I've seen a lot of, they're attention grabbing articles.
I mean, I'm sure that
better than Disney Plus.
I'm sure that there are plenty of people who love the flight attendant. I don't really care. I'm sure I tried watching. I'm just like, I'm bored.
Guys, what we're ignoring here is that
what are we ignoring?
HBO Max is Warner Brothers. Disney Plus is obviously Disney. Spoiler
Yes.
alert. But
Right.
I mean, what is it going to be? Is Paramount going to have their own streaming service
They
where?
do.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
they do.
right, but I mean, is every studio, and is it going to be
Yeah.
if you want to see our new movies, you have to buy the streaming service or go to the movie theater? It's going to be a point where
Probably.
people are just bankrupt because they can't afford all these studios and all the
No.
smaller studios.
No, I got you a solution for that too. It's called they're gonna pirate the shit because that's what people will do. People will always go back to that.
So, Brian, you're agreeing with me. There's going to be a point where instead of having a movie theater, which has every option, people are not going to pay, $15 a month for every single studio's private streaming service so they can watch it at home.
What I'm saying is that you have, prior to this whole thing, there was no legitimacy to movies that are playing in the theater being put online. There wasn't. Okay. The only way that you could watch a movie that's currently playing in theaters is by pirating the fucking thing. Okay. That's literally it. You torrented it or whatever. My point is that because the studios are putting their seal of approval and saying, go to our platforms and you could watch a movie at the same time that it's in the theater, that is going to indoctrinate the attitudes and consumption behavior that people have. And if you try to rip that away because, the pandemic's gone, guess what? Got to go back to normal. We're not doing that. People won't do it. So what I'm saying is that people will either just say, fuck it, I'll pirate the shit instead. Or they will just, wait until it comes to HBO Max anyway. And so there you go. They've already lost that. And I'm telling you, people are not going to hold on to a subscription service for one fucking movie. Or they're not going to hold on. And if that movie is gone because they're like, well, Wonder Woman 5 isn't coming out, on HBO Max, then they'll just wait.
Brian, Beverly Stevenson, who lives in Idaho, who teaches fourth grade, doesn't know how to pirate something.
Oh, trust me. Her fourth grade students know how to pirate shit. And honestly, all Beverly Stevenson needs to do is ask her fourth grade students, how do you pirate a movie?
I'm sure she's going to ask her 10-year-olds.
She will. She will. Here's the
They'd
funny
have
story.
to stop making love.
Yeah, what was that, John? That was creepy.
What? I mean, how many stories do we hear about the teachers banging the students?
There
Actually is a whole Amazon Prime series based on that, by the way.
You're the worst, John.
See, exactly. There's a goddamn mini series about it.
Okay.
On Amazon Prime greenlit it. That happens. You're telling me that she's not going to go and be like, man, how do you guys watch this movie? Or like, watch them in study hall and they're fucking, watching whatever movie on their phone. People will find a way. People always will find a way. That's why I'm honestly like, people should not care about piracy and just look at it as loss. It's a guaranteed loss. It's going to happen. Just like every retail store has a loss baked into their profits because they know there's going to be a section that's just lost. That just comes with doing business.
I do feel that if the streaming services continue for certain films, I think it's going to be the death of cinema. I
think that's a little.
I don't know.
Kind of dramatic.
Well, no, I see somebody like Christopher Nolan, and I think like, dude, what the fuck do you want? We're in a pandemic. I'm so sorry that people aren't willing to risk their lives so they can go watch your backwards movie. And you can go, wow, isn't Christopher Nolan so amazing?
Your backwards
His forehead isn't large
Can
at
we call
all.
this episode John Shits on Christopher Nolan?
I mean, I can call it that.
I mean, he's just the new Robert Zemeckis since Robert Zemeckis has humiliated himself.
I don't think this is going to be the death of cinema. I really don't. I think, if anything, this will force the cinemas to get creative because up until this point, they really haven't had to do shit. Let's be honest here. They haven't had to do shit. All they've had to do is play the fucking movie, make it sound and look good. That's been what the focus has been for the past, 10, 15 years, has been how much image quality, how much sound quality can we make and make people come here because we've got the best image quality and best sound quality. Well, that's gone out the door because I can get a 4K TV for what? Like under $1,000 now?
Probably.
Okay. I can get a nice 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound system for what? I don't know, like less than 100.
Depends. Yeah.
Depends. So my point is like you no longer have the draw of quality. No longer. It's gone. Sorry, it's gone. Nope, not coming back. So
that does not compete with the movie theater.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's going to compete with the movie theater, but what I'm saying is just that the draw has always been you can't get this on your TV because of quality. So what has been the investment on the theater side? It's been the best theaters, the bigger theaters, the luxury seats, all this other crap to make you comfortable and make you enjoy the movie theater experience. And it's worked to a point.
Reclining seats.
But it's worked to a point. Yeah, but it's worked to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
People don't want to leave their house.
People don't want to fucking leave their house right now. So
or like maybe after.
Well, I kind of think that people will want to do communal things because they've been denied that. But I really think that if I'm a theater owner and I'm trying to get people to get off their ass and get out of their house and go to see a movie, I cannot just rely on the formula that has worked up until this point. Because I'm telling you, the studios are not going to put the genie back in the bottle. It doesn't make any sense financially.
Yes, it does. Oh, I couldn't. No, I mean that's what I was trying to make the point with Wonder Woman. They're hemorrhaging money. I think that they're breaking even on a lot of these movies that they're putting out there. Even the big tent poles like Blunder Woman. In 2020.
Are you still calling it Blunder Woman?
Yeah.
The first time you did it, I thought it was my headphone.
No, he really did call Blunder.
I don't really think that they're truly making a profit, and I don't think there's any way for them to really even graph whether they are making that profit. I think that at the second they can go back to theaters only, they will, because I think they're going to make 3 times as much money that way. And they can say somebody bought a ticket for Bad Boys 4. That's profit for Bad Boys 4.
But I just think that people's consumption activity has been so altered by this pandemic.
They'll do what
they may not go back.
I don't know.
We do what we're told. They'll do what they're told.
No, I don't. I mean, let's be honest here. Is anyone who's lived through this, if they are not fundamentally changed to some degree, then they haven't lived through this shit. I'm sorry. You just haven't. You weren't, some kid who's going to be born after this is going to be like, why is everyone so concerned with wearing a mask all the time? Why is grandpa saying wear your fucking mask? Why are they saying do you have to go out? Like, this is something that happened during the Spanish flu. You had an entire generation of people who literally were like so concerned with cleanliness. Wow. And then over time that stuff kind of, went by the wayside to a point. It's kind of sad and kind of gross. Yeah. That cleanliness became a generational thing. But my point is this: no one can say that they are not fundamentally changed by this whole pandemic. Our outlook on things, our way that we approach communal activities. I don't know about you. I will never go to a buffet ever again. I'll never do it.
I know. And
I won't.
Damn it.
I'll find my way to a buffet.
No.
Are you telling me if you're in Vegas, like after this is all over, you're not going to a buffet?
Okay, that's not
fine. I know your love of Vegas buffets.
For Vegas, but I don't think I'll do any other thing else.
The Bellagio buffet is okay.
I couldn't remember which one that you were in love with. It
was the Bellagio. my friend passed out in his spaghetti. Yeah. But my point is just that people are going to be fundamentally changed at the core level in how they approach activities and how they approach communal things. I think you're going to have a good chunk of people who are going to be kind of like me. I want to get back out there and have some sort of a communal activity. For me, I'm going to want to go to the theater. I fucking told my wife, I'm like, the minute that we can go to a mall, we're going to be going to the mall.
Oh,
I don't know if I want to buy anything. I just want to go to the mall.
I don't miss the
mall.
You
don't? Mm-mm. I miss it. I'm going to be honest with you. I do.
It's nice to be out like with other people and fucking around. So,
I miss Target. I miss Target.
Yeah, I miss Target.
That's in our mall, like in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but I don't miss the rest of the mall.
I miss the mall.
I miss like 2 stores. That's it.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, I'm going to be extra special careful about every surface and every group of people I'm going to be around. So it's going to be a weird thing where I'm kind of going to be going back and forth of, well, do I want to go to this group of thing or do I want to kind of stay home? So I think you're going to have a mixture of people. But what I'm trying to say, John, is that during this time, people are going to establish consumption activities that are going to be extremely hard to break. And I think the expectation will be just as the expectation of Netflix kind of going with streaming. And, they started out, as you mentioned, Lane, they were a disc company. They sent out discs.
Yeah.
Could they take the genie back of the bottle and say, well, I'm sorry, we're going to be going back to discs?
Oh my God. That was actually my original point was what I was going to say, because streaming had seemed so foreign after I got used to the idea of
it. It was an experiment.
Yeah.
It really was an experiment for Netflix.
And I was like, this is never going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, I think that there's a lot to think about here, and just how we consume media was something that fascinated me anyway. But now with the virus, I mean, this is insane. Just the way things are changing so rapidly.
Well, Netflix is bankrupt. They
spend so much money on new content, it's unreal.
The thing is, what they need to do, but they won't, because it's an admittance that they're failing, is that they need to ratchet up the price per person by about $7 or $8 a month.
They'd lose subscribers,
but they won't. So they spend exorbitant amounts of money to get people, to hope, people will join now because we got so and so, or we got Dave Chappelle, or we got this, or we got that. And the thing is, guys, in 5 years, there's not going to be Netflix anymore. They're going to do chapter bankruptcy. They're going.
Really? I think that's a bold stance.
I've looked at a lot of articles and a lot of videos saying, if you look at the numbers, they have not had a profit gain in like 10 years. They are hemorrhaging money, hemorrhaging it left and right. And if that's the streaming service model, if Netflix is the first and the big daddy, they are hemorrhaging money left and right. It's not a model that equates, like you see it a lot in television now. Not the same thing. This is apples to pomegranates, but it's so hard to say what are the ratings of a TV show, because they have with not streaming service, with DVRs, they have next days and 7 days. Yeah. That they somehow can determine if people will watch something that they DVR'd the following day within 7 days. But if you haven't watched it within 7 days, it doesn't count as ratings. And how many people are DVRing something and watching it later? How do you determine what your real ratings are? I don't think that they could properly determine that money and in that kind of factor. And I do think that you're going to slowly see in theaters only. In theaters only, now in theaters only. And I don't mean to sound horribly cynical, but I think that what these studios are going to tell us, not out loud, but under the surface, is you're going to eat shit and you're going to like the taste of it.
So aggressive, this one.
Well, my response to that is gear up your Napster again.
LimeWire.
You can just.
My response is,
you can teach me the ways of the dark side, Brian.
I don't know how to do that anymore. But my point is just that I think that once the genie is out of the bottle, that it's extremely, extremely difficult to get it back in. And by HBO Max and Warner Brothers putting their stamp of approval, and honestly, Disney is guilty of it too. On putting their blockbusters up on streaming at the same time it's in theaters, it's going to be really hard to change people's behavior. What was that?
What blockbusters though? Mulan.
Well, that's what I mean. Like Onward, Mulan, and Soul, and those types of films. That's what I was
very surprised that Soul, that they put that out there, but Black Widow's still not out. If they had a Star Wars movie, which they don't, but I guarantee you wouldn't be seeing that shit on.
No, Disney. They got Mandalorian. They don't need to do that.
Right. What I'm saying, they had Rise of Skywalker 2, Electric Boogaloo. That was on Disney Plus right now. It would be, they'd be holding in that one too.
You know what? Honestly, I think they're all banking on the fact that this pandemic is gone in a year, which is why you've seen them push back the release of these movies.
Yeah, they're just hanging.
I think they're just hanging.
see a lot of pushback for theaters, like only in theaters now at this October.
Maybe.
Well, my whole point is just kind of wrap things up. I really think that it is going to be hard for these studios. I know you can say, John, that they're going to tell us to eat shit, but when they've done that in the past, the response has been, well, fuck you. I'm going to go pirate your shit anyway. When streaming kind of really hit its stride, when you had Netflix, Amazon Prime, and really, these services, people got to understand that, hey, I can pay, $12 a month and I can get access to movies. That drove piracy down to its lowest levels. It really did. And the problem I see is that because they've released a genie out of the bottle, so to speak, is that people are going to say, well, fuck that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pirate the shit anyway. And that's going to be something that they're going to have to deal with. I don't see people sticking around and buying into HBO Max if those movies aren't there. My wife and I were about ready to cancel HBO Max until Wonder Woman showed up.
Yeah.
We really were. We were just like, we'll keep it for the trial and then get rid of it because there wasn't really anything great on it, and there still really isn't. Don't get me wrong. I've seen Batman like 1,000 times, and it's great that like The Sopranos are on there because I got to watch that. But I mean, I don't really care about anything else that's on there. Mm-hmm. It's just it's not my deal. Like, I got rid of cable a long time ago, so I don't really have any investment in any of the series that they have up there.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, John Oliver, Real Time with Bill Maher, Deadwood.
Yeah, I mean,
Under.
I don't really care. I don't get me wrong. I love Curb Your Enthusiasm, but eventually, here's the thing too: the way that streaming services work, eventually episodes of Curb are going to end up on Amazon Prime anyway.
True.
So yeah, I just think that people's consumption of media is fundamentally changed by this, and that's something that the studios will have to deal with.
Yeah.
So.
All right, guys. So
that was a good talk.
Let's stream services in the future.
Yeah, I love it when John and I are fighting.
Yeah.
Fuck you, John.
Never fighting.
No.
Just having a combative back and forth.
Combative back and forth.
Good show.
Yeah. Good show.
All right.
Yeah. Wow. I think we kind of talked streaming in theaters to death. So John, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
Only in theaters.
Of course you are.
The Unreal J Wolves.
Lane?
At LA_Croft.
And you can find me at Brian Carton. I also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network, epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or you too are, I don't know, contemplating your HBO Max subscription because you realize that there's nothing on it other than fucking, what the hell is it? A flight attendant and Survival Party. You could contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. Be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Also, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Psycho Show, and we will see you next time.
Good night.
Epicast.